Everyone, due to the unfortunate circumstances during our time, medyo naglibog lang ta, so we're not able to present. Here we are making use of the time being, and I hope that you will learn and you will watch this video. Our given topic is early Filipino revolts. We are the group 2. My name is Kyth, Chester, or Raro. My partner is our Kyth, Sabanal, and Bernard Jr. Salvaña. Revolts in the Philippines are categorized into 3 parts. Please remember that. The imposition of Catholic faith, forced labor or polo, and the usurpation of the land by religious orders triggered off reactions from the Filipinos, which came in the form of revolts. This during the early part of the Spanish colonization, 19th to 18th centuries. And the revolts took place in different parts of the Philippines. Overview of this topic. In the attempts of preserving the old religion by Filipinos, inspired the revolts led by Tamblot of Bohol and Bancao of Leyte. And these 2 revolts took place in 1621. And then it was then followed, due to the demands of forced labor or polo, took a toll of Filipinos and were seen in the revolts led by Sumuroy of Samar in 1649 and Maniago of Pampanga in 1660. And then as religious orders usurped lands from natives, agrarian uprising became rampant in the provinces of Batangas, Bulacan, Cavite, Laguna, and Rizal in 1745 to 1746. Now all these, this particular chapter was documented by Father Pedro Murillo. The topic is about revolt of Dato Bancao in 1621 to 1622. As you can see in my PPT, just a bullet form, just to give you some of the important things that you need to study and you need to really familiarize with. The rebellion in 1622 in Carigara, Leyte, broke out while the Bohol uprising of Babaylan, Tamblot, was going on. Due to the Spaniards, their success in Bohol was very important, for it would check revolts from other villages and other islands. Chief Bancao of Carigara, Leyte, was also watching the outcome of Bohol uprising, but he became impatient. Remember guys, that the Spaniards believed that Bancao was very old and decrepit, so they underestimated Bancao in leading a group. Just to give you the exact age, he was 75 years old at that time of the revolt. Natives of Carigara again in the island of Leyte became impatient and revolted without waiting. The result in Bohol, incited therefore by Bancao, the ruling chief of Limasawa, who in the year in 1565 actually received a friendly welcome by Miguel Lopez de Legazpi and the Spaniards, who came to his island supplying them with what they needed, for which Philip II sent him a royal decree thanking him for the kind hospitality which he showed for the first Spaniards. He was baptized, and although a young man, showed that he was loyal to the Christians, but conquered by the enemy of souls, he changed sides in his old age. Gali is actually a priest of his idolatry. This is a personal choice. The Devata, or they erected, or kaning si Pagali, nagpatayo siya o a sacred place of Devata or devil, and they induced 6 villages in the island to rebel. So plano dito nila. So in order to remove from the fear of the Spaniards, of course, sila kahadlok sa mga Spanish at that time, these men told their followers that they could change the Spaniards into stones as soon as they saw them. By repeating the word bato, which signifies stone in English, and that a woman or a child could be changed them into clay by flinging earth upon them. Father Melchor de Vera went to Cebu right now to give a warning of this sedition and obtain aid to check it. So then, Alcarazo equipped an armada of 40 vessels. These are the images. This is Bancao, kining naka-purple. And then, this is the time na nag-usap-usap sila. This is Captain I know this is Father Melchor de Devara. So, very Spanish kayo siya. And then, this is Father Pagali. So, highlight this topic, someone pierced with Lance Bancao. So, remember Lance Bancao, the chief investigator of the rebellion, not knowing who he was, whom two of his slaves were carrying on their shoulders, and immediately his head was placed on a stake as a public warning. He and his children came to a wretch end as soon as the punishment of their infidelity and apostasy. For his second son was beheaded as traitor or traidor, and his daughter was captive. Inspire the terror or the terrorist. The captain gave orders to 3 or 4 rebels and burned 8 of their priests in order that by the light of the fire, the blindness in which the Devata or the devil had kept them deluded, which might be removed. Now, the Spaniards also cut off the head of an Indian who had robbed Father Venancio or Vilancio and broken to pieces an image of Virgin Maria and kicked a crucifix. Of course, sa ilaha it was very inappropriate and disgrace, and most importantly kanang disrespectful kaayo sa ilaha. His head was set up in the same place where he had committed those horrible sacrileges. He who, in the midst of so furious a tempest, remained constant in their religious belief.
So we were going to talk about the excerpt of an account of the Sumuro Revolt. This revolt is just one of the many revolts happened in the early Filipinos or in the past years of the history in the Philippines. So with that, let's dig more deeper to the Samurai Revolt. So important details is we have 4 important details to remember. First is that the Samurai Revolt happened on the year 1649 to 1650. Next is that the cause of this revolt is Vipolo y Servicios or forced labor by the Spaniards, initiated by Governor Don Diego Fajardo to send laborers to Cavite to build ships. So next is that the revolt is headed by 3 persons. First is Don Juan Ponce, next is Don Pedro, and lastly, Agustin Sumuroy. And the last important detail is that the revolt spreaded to Zamboanga, northern Mindanao, Cebu, Masbate, Camiguin, Albay, and Camarines. So here are the relevant characters in what happened on the Sumuroy revolt. So first is Don Diego Fardo. He's the one who ordered the laborer from different places to build ship. So we have Don Juan Ponce, one of the leaders of the Sumuroy revolt. Don Pedro Kaamog, also one of the leaders of the Sumuroy revolt. Next is Agustin Sumuroy, also one of the leaders of the Sumuroy revolt. Next is Captain Hines de Rajas, leader of the Spaniards troop, and lastly Silvestre de Rodas, one of the Spaniards leading the second attack. So I didn't have really the pictures of all the characters because I really can't find it in the internet, but if you have, then it's good. So, and also on the next slides, I can assure you that the pictures is exact to the or aligned to the topic. I just use it as reference to further visualize what is happening in the next slide. So let's proceed. So here are the chronological order that happened in the Samurai Revolt. So first is that Governor Don Diego Fajardo asked the people in Palapag of Northern Samar to be sent to Cavite to build ships to lessen the burden of the workers in Manila. So next is that the people in Palapag didn't want to go to Manila to build ships because it is so far and they will be away from their family and their family needed them. And also they are forced labor. So next is that the father minister went to Manila to represent the people of Palapag about the troubles and wrongs. In the end, the order was still up and they can't do anything about it. Next is that the alcaldes mayor of Palapag was starting gathering people. With that, the people formed together a group for insurrection headed by Don Juan Ponce, Don Pedro Caamog, and Agustin Sumuroy. So for the information of everyone, insurrection means rebellion to the high government. So next, in June 1, 1649, Sumuroy went to the house of Father, a Spaniard, and killed him. The following day, they wreaked havoc in his house and church. Next, the information of insurgents reached in many places, and they did the same. They killed Spaniards and wreaked havoc to the church and its houses. So next, later on, the insurgent built an impregnable hill and called it the Table of Palapag. So this is located in a hill, a high hill in the Palapag where the Spaniards will have a hard time penetrating it. So next, Don Pedro Caamog went down to the Palapag along with 200 men and killed Father Minister Vicente Damia and two boys serving him and burned the church. After that, they returned to the base thinking that it was a great victory. So the Spaniard noticed the reduction of inhabitants of Palapag. The Spaniards planned action and lead the Governor Don Diego Fardo and requested help from Manila, which is Andres Lopez de Asaldegue, and brought best soldiers as he can. So Spaniards are now preparing for the penetration on the impregnable hill. Captain Hines de Rajas assembled 13th oared vessel and two champans. After all the preparation, they are ready to battle. Next, Don Hines resolved to block and capture the natives in the hill by hunger. Natives learned through their spies that Don Hines had few men in his quarters. Next, at night, when the natives attacked the camp of Spaniards in disorderly manner, unfortunately the guards heard them and rang the bell as a sign of intrusion. Don Hines wake up and grab his sword. Unfortunately, the natives were defeated. Some escaped, but Don Hines didn't pursue them in fear of ambush. So as the troop of Don Hines was attacking the impregnable hill, insurgents were ready to unleash their traps. The insurgents were fighting like a lion and thus resulting defeat and retreated. So, next, though it was different in July 2, 1650, so it was year after the first attack. So, it was Silvestre de Rodas made the attack in the impregnable hill. He attacked together with his troop at night. It was heavily raining at that time, and they injured it until it stopped. The Spaniards successfully penetrated this time the table of Palapag. On the other hand, the insurgents were surprised by the attack. They panicked and now resulted to the winning of the troop of Silvestre de Rodas. So this time, the second time around of attacking of Spaniards to the table of Palapag, they successfully penetrated it. So next, Sumuroy refused to talk in peace and appearance. In result, his comrade betrayed him and beheaded him, and brought the head of Sumuroy to Don Hines de Rojas. On the other hand, Don Juan Ponce remained hiding in Cebu for a long time, but after obtaining pardon, he returned to Palapag and committed crimes and was brought to Manila to pay his crimes. And who had the best and was Don Pedro Caamog, for he was the first to present himself and show great loyalty. So that's the end of the Sumuroy Revolt. So let's just recall. So the war happened two times. First attempt was failed. It was headed by Don Hines, but the second time around it was successful, which was led by Don Silvestre. So the um the the Sumuroys, or I mean the camp of Sumuroy, was defeated because they didn't expect it, because the Spaniards attacked the camp at night where it was least expected. So
Indian lands by friars. Vocabulary: agrarian uprising refers to a popular revolt or rebellion primarily involving farmers or agriculture workers. Religious orders, referring to land or property that is owned and managed by religious institutions such as monasteries, convent, or religious orders within various faith traditions. Usurpation, act of wrongfully seizing or taking control of a position of power, authority, or property without the legal right or legitimacy to do so. Auditor of the Royal Audiencia, high-ranking judges or magistrates who assisted the president in the administration of justice. They are responsible for hearing cases, deliberating on legal matters, and rendering judgments. Agrarian uprising or rebellion took place in a rice and sugar producing provinces of Cavite, Batangas, Laguna, Tondo, and Bulacan. These provinces had haciendas owned by different religious orders. These lands were acquired by many religious orders through usurpation of land or land grabbing. Not only natives driven out of the communal land that they owned, but were even forbidden to gather firewood, pasture their work animals, and fish in the rivers. This matter reached the King of Spain, wrote a letter addressed to the President and Auditor of the Royal Audiencia of the Philippines. Don Pedro Enriquez, an auditor, made a report stating his proceeding in pacifying the villages of Taguig, Hagonoy, Parañaque, Bacoor, Cavite, and other places near the capital, which had revolted. He then published the proclamation of the general pardon, which villages were pacified, except for chief instigators of the revolt, those who initiates the revolution. Within the proclamation of the general pardon, it promised that their complaints should be heard and justice will be done to them. The village of San Mateo revolted, did not surrender their arms, therefore it was left in ruins as punishment and also part of the proceeding of Don Pedro. Similar situation happened in Bulacan, and like the former, an agreement they had formed by public writing with the village of Sila. A petition against the injuries which the Indians received from the managers of the estate. These managers are those religious orders, no? Estates owned by the religious of Saint Dominic and those of Saint Augustine, usurping the land of Indians without giving them the freedom of the river for their fishing or allowing them to cut wood for their necessary use, or even to collect the wild fruit, and did not allow to pasture on the hills the carabaos which they use for agriculture. Don Pedro determined to free them from this oppression and decided that they should not pay various unjust taxes which the manager exacted from them. Having proven to be capable in the other task assigned him, he received the commission as subdelegate judge of the adjustment of land titles. And with that, as the judge, he demanded from the aforesaid religious orders the title of ownership for the land which they possessed. Religious orders refused to obey, but despite of that, he distributed to the villages the land which the religious orders had usurped and declared to be crown lands. Don Pablo also investigated a fraudulent proceeding in the measurement of the lands in the estate of Binyan, owned by the religious of Saint Dominic, committed in 1743. This fraudulent action caused disturbances, revolt, and losses which had experienced by other villages. Aligned with this fraudulent action, Don Juan Monroy, the court clerk, faced charges for fraudulent land surveys in Binyan in 1743, that is by manipulating measurements and giving excess land to the religious group. And to further explain this part, he made the computations and the surveyors signed it, supposing that it was correct. But it was acknowledged that in the same year, later, another survey and adjustment of boundaries was made by the aforesaid court clerk, and one of the said surveyor on some land over which there were lawsuit, and some, in particular with the religious of Saint Augustine, in which survey there was assigned to each cattle farm, which that farm is measured in at 3,024,574 square brazas of land. This being different from the previous survey, which was computed at 8,695,652 brazas. In this was proved the fraud with which the said Monroy acted in giving to the said religious more than half of the land which belongs to Sila. With that, he is sentenced to a 2-year suspension and a fine of 2,000 pesos, highlighting the serious consequences of his action on land distribution and the integrity of survey process. On the same date, a letter was sent to Marqués de Regalia, a minister of the King's Council and Tribunal of the Indias, emphasizing his exclusive role as judge of rents, settlement of land title, and collection of fines. Simultaneously, the government of the island was directed to ensure the protection of the Indians in the affected villages against unjust actions by religious groups. The government was reminded to adhere to imperial laws and royal decrees that have been issued emphasizing fair treatment of Indians and shall not suffer oppression or extortion. The fiscal was instructed to represent and defend the Indians in any relevant cases, ensuring that the Indians are informed of their choices against oppression and mistreatment for a peaceful resolution.
So, just a summary and a conclusion of our report. The early colonization of the Philippines by Spain, Filipinos responded to the colonial master through revolt. So, sad to say that, revolution was their idea, Jud. Maybe the Filipinos felt that they are slowly attacked by the Spanish, and war and revolution was a key for them to stop. But it was also highlighted that, the revolts were caused by Filipinos. So, Filipinos itself, di ay ang cause pod sa revolution because many of the Filipinos wants to preserve the pre-Spanish religion, the freedom from forced labor, and the preservation of their communal land. So, of course, even up until this day, there are some people there are some families are also battling or medyo nag-away about sa mga land problems, properties, sa mga ari-arian. So, even up until this day, it's very evident. And of course, at that time, the church and the state, on different occasions of the revolts, took the side of the Filipinos. So, very very unfortunate that the church and the state, nagpanig sa Filipinos. But of course, the revolts were suppressed by pitting one Filipino ethnic group against another. So, from, as what I have said earlier, from this certain group to another group. So, it's a domino effect. But, all of this, all of this just wanted to preserve. And the revolts unintentionally, provided information about the early Filipino culture. So, despite of, the bloodbath, and despite the very sad reality at that time, it was also a chance, an opportunity that provided information of how and what the Filipino culture is going to be. So thank you so much, and I hope that you guys learned something from our report. And we're very glad and we're very honored to share with you that. Thank you.